Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Township of Woolwich Council meeting on Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. We're now live on YouTube, and it's great to see so many people in person, and welcome everyone tuning in to the live stream. I'm going to start with the roll call of council. I, Mayor Shantz, am present and chairing this meeting. Councillor Bryant.
Present.
Councillor Burgess.
Present.
Councillor Cadeau.
Present.
Councillor Grant.
Present.
Councillor Schwint.
Present.
Thank you. I need a public resolution to reconvene an open session. Moved by Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Bryant. All those in favor? And that is carried. I acknowledge that the land on which we live has been here from time immemorial, and the Indigenous people have lived here from time immemorial. And I thank the Chinatan, also called the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee people who have lived here, cared for this land, and who continue to share and steward this land with us. May we together learn to care for each other, our flora and fauna, and the land that sustains us. And in this season, however, we celebrate light and darkness, and we remember, again, regardless of how we celebrate, that many people, both at home and around the world, are hurting for so many different reasons. There are a lot of past hurts, there are a lot of current hurts, and we wish for the spirit of the season to bring light and hope to the world. Just join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none, we do have an item to come forward from closed, and that is a Heritage Committee appointment. So in a motion that the Council of the Township of Woolwich, I won't read all the words, appoints Terry Bowman, Diana Welts, and Natalia Smirowski to the Heritage Committee, moved by Councillor Bryant, seconded by Councillor Grant. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We have minutes from Council of November 21st and Committee of the Whole from December 5th. Would someone like to move those? Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Burgess. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We have one item for public meeting. The following portion of the meeting is for information only, and no decisions will be made tonight. Any questions can be directed to Development Services staff following the meeting. And I declare the planning public meeting to be open and turn the meeting over to Planner Stephen Dykstra. If he can get his screen on. Yeah, stop.
Hello. Hello, good evening. My name is Stephen Dykstra. Good evening, councilors, Madam Mayor. And tonight I'll be presenting the application to amend the zoning bylaw for a property located at 2344 New Jerusalem Road. There we go. Here we have the subject lands. It's a property, it's about 0.6 hectares, 1.5 acres. It's just southeast of Elmira, and it's agricultural lands, and it's got a house and some accessory buildings currently on it. The proposal is to change from agricultural with a site-specific provision to agricultural with another site-specific provision. They're proposing to add an e-repair as an additional permitted use. E-repair is going to be generally identified as repair of electronic components, circuit boards, home appliances, agricultural, and industrial equipment. That's pretty much what the proposal is. And we're here at the public meeting. And as we know, the purpose of it is to provide information to the council and provide opportunity for the public to make their concerns and provide their comments. As we also know, there's no decisions that are made at a public meeting. And staff will continue to work with the applicant and provide a report in the near future once all of our information has been compiled. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Smith, are there any unregistered participants?
There are no unregistered participants this evening.
Okay, is there anyone here who would like to speak to the application? No. Seeing none, I declare the planning public meeting to be closed. That was one of the quickest ones we've had, I think. We have no presentations. We do have some delegations this evening. And before we get started with that, I'd like to remind the delegates of the guidelines for participating. Delegations have 7 minutes to speak. After you speak, please wait for questions from council. Once there are no further questions, you may return to your seat or turn off your video if you're joining on Zoom. You can leave anytime you wish, or you're more than welcome to stay for the whole meeting if you'd like. And the item with delegations is a draft plan of subdivision. And I will call on Stephen.
Oh, I was just going to say Stephen will present.
Okay, the senior planner, Stephen Dykstra, you're up again.
Good evening again. Thanks. My name is Stephen Dykstra, and again, I'm the senior planner who was assigned to this application. It is for the application was by Madwest Breslau and Woolwich South Holdings, and it's an application to amend the official plan, zoning bylaw, and a plan of subdivision. This is the location of the property. It is on the east side of Breslau, and it is surrounded by, it's south of the railway. We have Conestoga Meads to the east. We have the airport to the southeast. It is directly adjacent to Fountain Street North. And then it's, it accesses Woolwich Street South as well. The slide on the right sort of shows the property boundaries. This is what the proposal is. So as you can see here, the proposal includes a fair amount of residential. It includes some live work on the south west corner. It includes some stormwater management ponds that are identified in blue. The big green blob in the middle is the wetland, and it also includes a park. There are also some apartments that are proposed on the northeast section on the corner of Dolman and Fountain Road. The densities are predominantly located close to the major arterial roads, which is Ottawa Street on the south end and Dolman Street on the north end, as well as on the north side of Fountain Street as well. It identifies about 305 single detached dwellings, 101 street townhouses, and street townhouses are townhouses that face onto a public street. It also includes about 1,123 multi-residential dwellings, which include condominium townhouses, stacked back-to-back dwellings, as well as 2 apartment buildings. The exciting part, the planning framework here. provincial legislation. So staff looked at this application and identified that it meets the provincial legislation in terms of complete communities, intensification, conservation of environmental assets, as well as a number of other requirements. With respect to the regional official plan, especially the ROPA 2, which expanded the boundaries of boundary. It meets the policies that were set out by the region, including the settlement boundary densities, which should be in and around or above 55 people per hectare. Also, the requirements for servicing their complete communities, environmental protection, which also includes environmental noise as well as vibration, which were assessed through multiple studies in terms of the airport and the railway. And also the requirements of the region include compatibility and connectivity through sidewalks and trails, as well as other means and modes of transportation. With respect to the Township of Woolwich official plan, we determined that the application meets the intent of the official plan. And we also note that the official plan will need to be updated to reflect the Region of Peel Amendment 2, which expanded the boundaries of Breslau. One of the guiding principles, and I just wanted to highlight here, is that the proposed development achieves complete communities, high densities to make and it makes efficient use of the land. It provides certainty for existing industries. Again, that's for Conestoga Meats to the east, which will maintain its infrastructure needs in terms of water and sewage, I think. But it also includes a range of housing options. It includes affordable housing. It protects the natural heritage as well as the hydrological landforms. Extensive work went into the review of the wetland to ensure that the water in and water out for the wetland would be maintained. And it was determined that through their hydrological review and some ingenuity from engineering, that it will be able to maintain that wetland and the flows necessary for it. Planning framework continued. So the Township official plan, it goes through each of the communities, and it sets out some principles for each of the communities. I won't go through all of these, but some of the principles for the Breslau includes protection of the wetland, includes a range of housing needs, as well designed, connected through multimodal traffic and travel, creates green and healthy communities, and protection from flooding, noise and vibration, and is designed to respect the residents, and it is planned out in a logical, efficient way. In terms of timeline and staging, the applicant has, or the anticipated timeline for this and how it would generally follow would be that there would be a draft plan of subdivision if it were to be approved. The next steps would be to close Menno Street through a stop up and close bylaw. That would then close Menno Street, and then there would be a period of time where traffic would be diverted around, which would then require, and the applicant has committed to construct Ottawa Street as quickly as possible to regain that connectivity. Then as part of that, then the next stage would be stage 1, which includes sort of the southerly portion of the development up to about the wetlands. And it also would include the park. Then we would ensure that all the servicing for the northerly portion of the plan is intact, that the Dolman Street extension has been acquired, and that is in the ownership of the developer. At that point, then the northerly portion of the plan could be developed. So that's sort of the timeline, the general timeline of how it's anticipated for the development to go from start to completion. As for the allocation, which is how the how the township allocates population over the course of many years. The numbers there, or the population allocated, 207 seems like a bit of an odd number, but it's approximately 75 units. And the population on the right-hand side shows how that population accrues over the years. Now, there are two sort of population numbers there. Well, there's a number of population numbers there, but one where it says the 3519 and the 3,608 in bracket, that's sort of the anticipated population maximum. The zoning bylaw, as well as other documents, permit more, but that's unlikely based off of the structure of the overall plan of subdivision. But we have to provide these numbers to demonstrate how it could, with the maximum numbers, go to a full, the maximum number of people that would be included. So that takes us from around 2021 all the way out to 2044. Just so that you're aware that the population if they were to come in for registration in, say, 2025, that the population that they would be allowed to move into the area would be about 1,035 people. Because during this time, they accumulate that population permission, and it started in 2021. So that is how it works for population allocation. The next is the proposed phasing. So the applicant intends to develop phases W1 through W3. So that's sort of the purple parcels that are located on the south side there, and phase 1, and then which is the large sort of orange area, and then after that develop phase 2, 3, and 4. All of that sort of constitutes stage 1, as our engineer friends like to call it. Then once the applicant can demonstrate that all the additional improvements are made to increase the overall sanitary, then phases 5 through 7D are able to proceed, which is also known as stage 2. There's been some questions about the overall sanitary capacity. Infrastructure Services is satisfied that there is capacity for the full development potential without compromising sanitary allocation for any of the current developments and future known developments within this catchment area. So that's how we anticipate the proposed phasing to roll out. Some of the key development principles, again, I won't go through these in much detail, other than staff are of the opinion that the development meets the intent of the official plan, that it is good planning and meets the engineering requirements and all of the other required studies that were submitted as part of this application, which were extensive. That the comments from the region and all of the other agencies were taken into account and addressed through the application. That we believe that it fits in well with the surrounding community and especially within the town of Breslau. That matters associated with the railway, with the airport, and maintaining services to Conestoga Meats have been addressed. We believe that adequate services are available, and also that the housing needs that are necessary for the Breslau and the area can be partially met through this development. We've also reviewed in terms of sustainability, and the sustainable elements that would be included within this development, which includes some increased density. It's pedestrian friendly. It would, a number of the houses, there's a particular amount of residential dwellings that will have to be accessory dwelling unit ready. There's also anticipated to be mixed-use buildings, which would be those apartment buildings on the main floor of the apartment buildings at the corner of Dolman and Fountain Street. There's also live-work units that are proposed on the west side on Woolwich Street. And there's anticipated to be some reduced parking rates, which actually meet the proposed zoning bylaw that's coming out in hopefully early next year. The staff have received a number of public comments on this application. Here to sort of identify why staff believe that the plan is sufficient, and we believe that it, as demonstrated, it's good planning. The planning report that was submitted found that there was no justification for not including the Scarlet Road connection. The official plan supports connections to create well-designed, safe, attractive, sustainable residential neighborhoods that are integrated within the existing community in a logical, compatible, efficient, and cost-effective manner. The traffic impact study, or the TIS, supported the inclusion of the street connection. The connection will be used also for infrastructure purposes. We also saw and felt that the distance between the Dolman and Menno, which is about 750 meters, is a very large stretch of uninterrupted integration between the two communities. The connection would provide movement of people and vehicles and bikes to connect the two communities, especially given the location of the park. The location of the park, maybe I can sort of skip back a bit here to show. Here we go. Here's the park. This is the anticipated connection. So if you're in this area, rather than traveling down and up or way over and around, that going from here through there would be the quickest, shortest, and most logical route to take. Sorry for doing that. This is also consistent with how development has taken place elsewhere within the Township of Woolwich. There's a number of examples. On William Street, just north of here, there was an old road stub that ended, and the new community was then added onto that. There's 2nd Street as well, which is in Elmira. And then within Breslau, there's Shield Street and Joseph Street, which were road stubs and were extended in the future. They were anticipated road extensions, which had sat maybe for several years or many years. And then when the new development came in, those road stubs were then extended. To add on to that further, there was a road stub that was originally intended for, and it was intended for this purpose. It was intended for access between Elroy Estates and any development that would come in on to the east of it. This road stub does not encourage speeding, and again, as I stated before, it's not a logical cut through for traffic that is going generally from the easterly side to the westerly side, or vice versa. Then to speak to the tree protection, there's an image sort of included at the bottom right, which shows in sort of a green bubble where there's trees that exist. In order to protect the trees that are there, it's anticipated that a fence will be provided at the drip line of the trees. And this is a standard measure to ensure that there's a healthy root system. It's in the lands within the fenced area would then not be disturbed, and the fence would remain while the soils are being moved and up to the date of the building permit. There were some additional concerns that we heard about the future of Mater's Lane, which I believe that the people who have made those comments, both staff as well as the applicant, have spoken to them, and we believe that those concerns have been addressed. There was some concern about singles and semis, that there should be more included. There was concerns with traffic impact, and there was concerns with the future of Pine Hill Moraine. And through the EIS document that we received, it was determined that those concerns had been addressed. So to get to the recommendations, staff are supportive. The staff are supportive of the development. We believe that represents good planning and is in compliance with the provincial, regional, and township documents. We recommend that the official plan amendment be adopted by council. It's in keeping with the general intent of the official plan and the overall objectives. One thing I should note, though, is that there's a number of minor amendments that will have to be made to the official plan post this in order to address some of the staging and allocation numbers. They would essentially be updated to address the ROPA 2 numbers, correct?
Yeah, what's in the report?
And what's in the report. So staff are also recommend that council approve in principle the zoning bylaw amendment and recommend that council endorse the draft plan of subdivision to the region of Waterloo. I have another slide on the zoning bylaw amendment. It's a little bit odd just for this one because of the timing of this. We believe that the plan is designed well and takes into consideration the objectives of the township and the region. We also recommend that council allocate sewage capacity for 5,507 people. We believe that this is sufficient capacity for this development, and that it leaves enough capacity as well for other developments in the area. We also recommend that council approve in principle, the Ottawa Street alignment. There was an EA that was completed. In order for the EA to go to the next step, we require council endorse this design. Then it will go on to the region for final approval. And staff are of the opinion that the proposed design meets our objectives. And lastly, that council directs staff to initiate the Dolman Street extension acquisition process. For the development to be built, Dolman Street would need to be extended between this development and Woolwich Street. And in the event that expropriation is necessary to acquire these lands, we're seeking authority from council to initiate this process. Just a little note on the zoning bylaw recommendation. Within the report, it's recommending 2 zoning bylaw amendments. The first zoning bylaw amendment addresses what is in our current zoning bylaw. The second one addresses if and when the new zoning bylaw is adopted, hopefully early next year. We would like, or the applicant and staff would like to adopt the zoning bylaw under the new zoning bylaw. But if in the event that the adoption of the new zoning bylaw gets delayed, or something happens, we still require we would implement the zoning bylaw based off of the current zoning bylaw. So just so that we capture both of those, and so you're informed on how that change would impact on both the current and the future zoning bylaw. That's why we provided both of them. So that ends my presentation. I'll turn it back to the proposed plan. So something.
Super. Thank you. Questions? Councillor Bryant?
One question before we hear from the delegates. What's the cost of the proposed Ottawa Street alignment? Do we know what that would cost the township, or is that going to be absorbed by the region?
I think the developer's doing that, right?
Developer?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Bryant. That cost is a local service that is being funded predominantly by the developer, as well as there is DC eligible components associated with that. for servicing is all the developer, and there is a 50% cost share with the development charges as well as local service aspect to that. So no hit to the taxpayer.
Any other questions? I have a question about your last comments about the zoning bylaws. And partly because of all the confusion that's going on regarding zoning and official plans right now. But what we see in front of us fits ROPA 2, which was an older, which is the existing the existing official plan amendment. And then there's ROPA 6, which we haven't really enacted now, right? So when you say looking to the new bylaw, can you just put that in context for us?
Sure, no problem. So the zoning bylaw is different. It's a different document, really in its entirety than what ROPA deals with. ROPA 2, ROPA 6 doesn't really impact this at all. It would just be the settlement boundary has already moved over as part of ROPA 2. ROPA 6 would just extend well beyond that. So yeah, again, ROPA 6 really does not impact this development at all. And in terms of the zoning bylaw, both of the proposed zoning bylaws, it's a different document in and of itself than the official plan and ROPA 2 and or ROPA 6.
So those bylaws are just ours, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the township's zoning bylaw.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make that clear that this is ROPA 2, it's not ROPA 6, and it's got nothing at all to do with the confusion that's happened in the last 6 months.
No,
Just to be
we're
clear with
well beyond
everyone.
that.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. Then we'll go to our delegations, and our first delegate is Matthew Warzecha. Yeah. Welcome. We're working on it. Yeah. Can you turn your mic on too?
Of course.
Great.
Just waiting for the presentation to be pulled up. Great. Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Matthew Warzecha. I'm a planner with Polocorp. I'm here on behalf of the applicant this evening, Madwest and Madison Group. Excuse me. With me, I'm joined by Christian Lamanna from Madison Group, as well as Steve Peterson from MTE Engineering. Together, we're here in support of the proposed recommendations. If I may, I'd like to start by extending my thank you to staff from the township, the region, the GRCA. We've worked very closely with them over the last 4 years to prepare the plan that is put forth to you today. It's been a long 4 years. It was submitted at the beginning of January 2020. COVID hit immediately. And so I'd want to just take the moment to thank staff and everyone that we've worked with over the last few years. If I can go to the next slide, please. I don't think that we need to spend much time on reviewing the current context. However, if we go to the second slide here, I do think it's important to appreciate the future context of the lands. And that's because there are 3 major infrastructure projects that are going to be implemented partially in part through this project. At the south end, there is the Ottawa Street extension shown in green. And at the north end is the East Connection Link Road, which will be an extension of Dolman Street, shown in blue and red. The Dolman Street extension, of course, will provide a connection between Woolwich Street to the northeast of the site, which will be the future GO station, which will be a very important interregional connection to the community as a whole. Next slide, please. Given the context of the site, the proposed development does consist of a mix of residential, some commercial, parkland, and open spaces. The proposed draft plan will allow for about 1,400 to 2,400 residential units. However, that is quite a big range. Ultimately, the plan is anticipated to be in and around the 1,500 to 1,600 residential unit, depending on final detailed design. Which provides a density of about 78 people and jobs per hectare. Next slide, please. The proposed plan will be comprised of a mix of residential typologies, ranging from singles to apartments. Of those typologies, there will be a few that will be new to Breslau, those being stacked towns, rear lane towns, as well as live-work units. Not only will the unit typologies range, but as will the sizes of the units and the levels of affordability, including an affordable housing component. Madison has committed to providing 10% of all stacked townhouses and apartments as being affordable rental units. In addition to this, a minimum of 25% of all single detached units will be constructed as ADU ready, which will allow for the opportunity for more attainable housing opportunities to be available in the community as well. Ultimately, though, the mix of units has been intended to provide or to appeal to a range of demographics, whether that is a young couple or a young person who's looking to move to the community, or someone, an older household who wishes to remain within the community and age in place. The intent is that this community will provide an option for them. Next slide, please. In looking at the draft plan, you'll note that we do make use of multi-blocks, most notably at the north end, within proximity to the future GO station. These blocks will accommodate condominium townhouse and apartment buildings and will offer the opportunity for some commercial uses. We have utilized multi-blocks as they offer a number of benefits. Most notably, they utilize private roads and servicing, which allows for more efficient and flexible designs within the blocks. This flexibility in turn facilitates higher densities without relying on taller buildings to attain the same number of units in close proximity to the future GO station. Next slide, please. In looking at the draft plan, you'll also notice that it introduces extensive green space throughout the plan. In total, over 25% of the land area will be green or naturalized in some way, whether that be through the dedication of parkland, use of open space blocks, preservation of the existing wetlands, or through stormwater management facilities. Next slide, please. In regard to the dwellings themselves, Madison Group does pride themselves on high quality, innovative design, and they'll be carrying that mentality through or into this community as well. To give you a sense of the design, I'm providing a couple examples of elevations that were used in projects elsewhere by Madison. While these will not necessarily be the exact elevations that we'll see within the community, they do give you an idea of the level of design and the quality of materials and the architecture that is typical of a Madison project. So here you'll see some examples of single detached dwelling units. On the next slide, you'll see two forms of townhouses. On the top, these are street or cluster townhouses, and on the bottom are rear lane townhomes. With the rear lane townhomes, you'll note that there are no garages on the front elevation. As you would expect, these do have rear lanes, and the garages are actually oriented towards the rear of the property. If you go to the next slide, we're providing examples of the front and rear of stacked townhomes. Next slide, please. In regards to staging, as Mr. Dykstra noted, we have worked with staff to develop a strategy that aligns with the township staging policies and servicing capacities. The phasing plan is based on an annual unit allocation to ensure managed, orderly, and cost-effective build-out of the community. Construction will last approximately 15 to 20 years, beginning in phase one at the north end, and will incrementally move north such that there is a mix of typologies in each individual phase throughout the duration of the project. Next slide, please. Mr. Dykstra covered the application, so in the interest of time, I'll move through these pretty quickly. There are three. We have proposed an official plan amendment. We have also proposed the zoning bylaw. And then lastly, there is a number of studies that were completed and iterated upon for the number of years that we've been working with. So if I may just conclude very quickly, again, just want to thank staff for everything that they've put through in the last 4 years and the efforts that they put into it. Ultimately, the proposed applications conform with provincial, regional, and township policies. The plan supports efficient use of land and infrastructure. And lastly, provides an opportunity to construct a broad mix of much needed residential typologies. Ultimately, represents good planning. It's in the public interest, and we're here to support staff's recommendation for approval. So thank you very much for the extra time. I'm available to answer any questions that council may have. And I'll remind you that we do have Mr. Lamana from Madison, as well as Steve Peterson from MTE to answer any questions that council might have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Warzecha? No? No questions. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much.
Our next delegates are Sean and Debbie Hillier. They've provided a written delegation to and asked it to be read to council, so Clerk Smith will read it.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz. As you said, the following is from Sean and Debbie Hiller, residing at 40 Kennedy Road in Breslau. We are one of 100 homeowners in Elroy Acres that participated in the petition for the opposition of the Scarlet Road that was submitted to the township 3 years ago. We'd like to start by addressing the mayor and council that this has been an unbelievable, disappointing experience. All the residents' voices, concerns, and efforts have been forgotten, ignored, and lost over the past 3 years. Councillor Bryant and Councillor Grant have recently reviewed this site in person with us and heard our safety concerns. The residents of Elroy Acres are asking, why would the township move forward and create more unnecessary traffic safety issues? This will only produce additional costs for the township now to address the issues with traffic calming measures. These measures, as reported, are currently ineffective in the Riverland development. A high percentage of traffic concerns regarding safety in the Riverland development is reporting pedestrian safety, close calls, speeding, and traffic violations. Elroy Acre roads are being used and enjoyed by all of Breslau, including the new Riverland Subdivision residents who come daily to walk, jog, and cycle with their families and pets. Both schools located in Breslau would be better accessed from this new development by vehicle from Dolman Street or Menno Street. The safety of the people walking or cycling should be the #1 concern. The road must be shared by people and vehicles, being there are no sidewalks or curbs. This connection would create an increase in traffic winding through an older existing neighborhood to get to Woolwich Street. The plan shows there will already be 3 access roads to Woolwich Street, being Dolman, Menno, and Ottawa Street, as well as 2 other access roads to Fountain Street. Burkholder Road in the new subdivision plan runs parallel with Kennedy Road. Both of these would provide access to Dolman Street and Menno Street, making this an unnecessary duplication. Both developers, Breslau Properties and Mad West, have stated that Scarlet Road is not a requirement for their plan. Also, 2 more houses as well as pedestrian walkway could potentially be built on Burkholder Road in that space. Elroy Acres is agreeable to the pedestrian and cycling traffic, not more vehicular traffic. The question is, since developers do not require this to be a vehicle connection and 100% of existing property owners oppose it, then why is the township pushing forward with this controversial, unsafe vehicular connection? A connection, if put in now, will never be reversed to a walkway or green space park, but could always be an option in the years to come, only if it is required. In closing, a 200-foot stretch being a green space or pedestrian walkway instead of the proposed road for vehicles will have no impact on the developer's final plan to move forward. We are asking you, the councillors, do the safe, respectable decision with this minor revision to the draft plan. Scarlet Road would be better used for a pedestrian connection or a green space park. And they wanted me to thank the councillors for hearing their concerns.
Thank you. I don't suppose you want questions. Our next delegate is Randy Brown. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
May I start?
You may.
I'm here to put a human face to that comment you just heard from Sean and Debbie Hillier. I submitted a letter outlining my concerns about that connection of Scarlet Road to Kennedy Road last week. Did everyone have a chance to read that? I don't want to read it. I can read it again right now if you want to, but if you've read, I don't want to waste your time. It's a rather impassioned plea not to include this Scarlet Road stub connecting this very high density area that is being developed, which I have absolutely no objections to, quite frankly. We need the housing. It's going to give lots of jobs. It's going to have a wonderful place for people to live, green space, the wetlands, et cetera. Beautiful place. I live in Elroy Acres. I've lived there for about 22 years now, right on Kennedy Road, very close to where the Scarlet Road would plug in. And it feels to me that Scarlet Road is like a safety valve, a high pressure valve, where we have the very quiet neighborhood of Elroy Acres, where a great number of people walk. In fact, people come from Riverland to walk there because it's so quiet and gentle. There's no curbs, no sidewalks, very slow traffic. Putting in the Scarlet Road stub seems to me just rather than integrating the two communities, which you said is an important thing, integrate the communities. But when you've got a very low density area like Elroy Acres, 100-foot frontages, huge mature trees, very quiet place. And then suddenly this high density place gets built right next to it with the Scarlet Road stub. You can bet that people are going to want to get out of the high density onto Kennedy Road, where they've got a beeline for Dolman or Menno Street to get out of the area. And suddenly our neighborhood, the way of life, the style of the feel of that community of Elroy Acres is going to be destroyed. So that's my concern. I see no reason why we can't build that entire subdivision, which I'm totally in favor of, with one exception. Don't build the Scarlet Road stub. Make it a pedestrian walkway. There's a green space. There's a park right there in the development and the wetlands right there. You don't need a vehicle to enjoy a park or a wetland. You want to have the pedestrian walkway there. So all those people that are currently walking in Elroy Acres can go through that walkway and access the new park and the wetlands being developed by Madison. Beautiful area. And I think the encouragement of green space and walking trails there is going to just enhance Elroy Acres, if nothing else, because it is a quiet pedestrian area, friendly area now. But Kennedy Road is a drag strip. It could become a drag strip if it's allowed access right in the middle for the entire heavy development of the Madison group there, right into the middle of it. And I'm just concerned that there will be a great amount of traffic. There'll be potential for safety issues. All the dog walkers, the baby strollers that are out there now gathering sometimes in the middle of the road to chat, all that lifestyle will be gone if the traffic from the new area is allowed to flow freely through. So put a delay on it. That's all I'm asking is you can vote yes for this development. I'm fine with that. But with the addendum that Scarlet Road is to be delayed for a minimum of 10 years. See if it's really needed. See how it affects the pedestrian traffic. See if it's not gonna cost the township anything to put that delay on it. They won't have to plow it. Right now, it would become a pedestrian walkway to the new area and would enhance, I think, the livability of both areas. There's always going to be ways that vehicles can get into that new high density area. We don't want them shoveling through Elroy Acres. And that's basically my entire presentation. I would love to answer your questions.
Thank you. Are there questions? No, I guess your presentation was very clear.
Thank
you. Our next delegate is Donny Bijowski. How'd I do? Welcome.
Mayor, thanks for having me. In regards to what's already been spoken, I'm just going to reiterate some other points of clarity that I would like to make sure everybody understands. Randy's done an amazing job. Same with my other neighbors there, Debbie and Sean. Some things I want to talk about are, and you mentioned it right from the get-go, paying attention to right from the start of the meeting. You said there's a lot of other things going on in the world where there's a lot of turmoil, there's a lot of adversity, there's a lot of things. And you hear stuff in the neighborhood, and I'm just going to say this quite frankly, there's no real benefit to put that stub in. Looking at the other subdivisions, we're all aware of Tom Curzan, Thomasfield Homes. He's done an amazing job with the subdivisions he's provided. There's 2 entry points into both of those subdivisions. You don't need 5, you don't need 6. He's done an amazing job with that. I'm on a couple Breslau pages on the Facebook sites, and there's nothing but constant complaining of driving through stop signs through the new Empire subdivision in the back. I think it's Norwich has become a speedway. All the residents there are constantly complaining about the cars not stopping, any of that stuff. That was Empire. That's how they wanted to do their subdivision. That's totally up to them. That's how they decide to do it. Another key point, and you hear the rumblings through talking with my neighbors, but I got a chance to meet these fine gentlemen this evening, sorry. And in speaking with them personally, I directly asked them the question, do you have any issues if Scarlet Road is not in the plans? And every one of these gentlemen said, we don't need it in there. So real simple, Randy touched on it. You know, the developer doesn't want it, the builder doesn't need it, and you can make 100 residents and people that have paid taxes there, the elderly community that's there, happy. If everyone's happy with the situation, I can't see why it wouldn't be where everyone can be happy. Okay. And then just a couple other things, looking at it, there's no real benefit for police, fire, and ambulance. They already have major entrance and exit points into there. Randy touched on this also, which is another good point. Our friend here from the city or from the township talked about, a park being right there. To get to a park, I don't know if you want more vehicular traffic around a park where there's going to be lots of kids. You want to attract kids, families. We want to keep the vehicles away from that area the best we can. My kids enjoy the Elmira Park and the other park where the water park is. I think they've done a great job of keeping vehicular traffic away from there. You have to come off the main road down into like a little pathway to a park. There's even if a small child decides to run away, there's no chance it's going to get in contact with a vehicle. Some other things I want to talk about. Just the roads. I mean, I know they've done some studies there, but if you councillors get a chance, drive down Kennedy, drive down Dovercourt, you'll see in January and December, as much as you try to fix the problem, it is an absolute skating rink. The township does a great job of getting the salters out there, but even if you do put drains, I know that's the next proposal or that's talked about down the road. The roadways, the sides are so overgrown, and the distances and the gaps, I can't see it accepting more vehicles. You really have to go there, drive it, walk it, get a feel for it. I mean, and man, I'm sure you have, and I know you have because Debbie and Sean have told me, and I thank you for that, for taking time out of your day to come there. Like I said, I'm open for questions. Real simple. I try to boil things down to the simplest terms, rather don't get all complicated with terminology and technology, because you guys have all done a fantastic job doing that, yourself included. But I'll just end it with this. The builder doesn't want it or doesn't need it. The developer doesn't need it. And there's people that have paid taxes in that area. And there's a lot of older demographic there that would be through the moon if they don't have it. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Are there questions? No questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Steve Van Dyke. He's joining virtually, I believe.
Hello,
Welcome. Go ahead.
you can hear me okay?
You can.
Okay. Mayor and councilors, thank you for opening this meeting up and allowing us to speak. I don't envy your jobs. You're in the public eye and making all kinds of big and hard decisions. And it's not the new subdivision that's proposed. We're all looking forward to it in Breslau. None of us have any opposition to new houses and having new neighbors. Obviously, just to make it obviously clear, I'm with Mr. Bijowski and the others who spoke earlier about the Scarlet Road extension, and that is obviously our main concern. I just want to, if I could quote what Mr. Dykstra said earlier in his presentation about the new houses that are going in there and all the sidewalks, the park, and it's going to be pedestrian friendly. And I really kind of like that term, because that's what you're looking for in a neighborhood. And that's what we in Elroy Acres have. We have a very pedestrian friendly neighborhood. People come from all over different areas of Breslau to walk through there and bike through there with their family and with their dogs. And if this road, Scarlet Road, happens, Elroy Acres will no longer be pedestrian friendly. You won't be able to walk through there. I think some of the numbers here, anywhere from 1,400 to 2,100 units going into that subdivision. Let's say each family has 1 to 2 cars. That's going to be another 3,000, possibly more, 4,200 cars coming out of that subdivision, going ideally on the Fountain or the Ottawa extension, but the potential is they're going to come through Elroy Acres, which is going to increase the traffic and take away the pedestrian friendly feel that we currently have. I moved to Breslau about 7 years ago with my wife, Sarah, and our 2 boys. And we moved here because we needed a bungalow, because we have a special needs child who sadly his physical abilities are declining. And I think I sent, I'm sure all of you got it, an email yesterday with outlining my concerns as well, and with some pictures of us going for a walk with our neighbors. And you can see how we're walking through there. No sidewalks. It's just the road. We're taking up a good portion of the road, just walking through there and enjoying it. And a couple of the pictures you can see are right by the Scarlet Road extension. And just put yourself in our shoes. You're out for a nice walk with your kids, your dog. My one son, who's very fiercely independent, despite his physical capabilities, is pushing along with his wheelchair. And all of a sudden, cars come whipping around that corner, probably having no disregard for the stop sign. It's going to be scary. And my little guy, he can't just jump out of the way like a normal person could. He's going to have a rough time with that. And so for those reasons, and keeping our acres pedestrian friendly, myself and others, this is why we oppose the Scarlet Road extension. Another point I wanted to make, and Mr. Dykstra also said it's not a logical cut through that road. Well, we don't know that until you survey all the people who are going to live in there. We don't know if it's going to be logical cut through. People are going to take the fastest, clearest way, and that could very well be Kennedy Road. Also, access to the park. I know Mr. Bijowski touched on this. And I know he specifically referenced the people on our acres going to the park. If we're going to that park, we're not going to drive. We don't need to drive through the park. We are perfectly happy and think a walkway, a green space would be ideal. And that's certainly how we would be able to access the park. We don't need to drive there. And I know there's been a little bit of talk about traffic studies, and I'm not sure when these traffic studies were done and what the results were. But again, I'd like to point out that they would have been done when this planning began in 2020, 2021, which was in COVID times. There was obviously a lot less traffic at those times. So the traffic is a big concern, the lack of sidewalks in our acres, and essentially destroying the pedestrian friendly atmosphere that we currently have in our acres. So just again, to reiterate, in the spirit of promoting a great community like we have, I want to continue walking through there with my dog, my kids, and their friends, and I want my son to be able to, my older son, my 11-year-old, or even my 9-year-old with the disability to, on a Saturday afternoon or a Monday after school, hop on his bike and go see his friends without any fear of cars zipping down the road. There's a few cars coming by now, but on any given day, you can walk around that neighborhood and not see a car go by you. That will certainly change. And I just want to ensure the safety and security of all the kids in the neighborhood, and the opposite end of the spectrum. I'll tell you a little story about my neighbor Carlos. He lives on Meadow, and he walks around the whole neighborhood every day with his little Shih Tzu and says hi to everybody. And bless his soul, he just keeps going. And you put that road, Scarlet Road, through onto Kennedy, and he won't be walking through there anymore. It'll take a big part of his life away, which is just getting out, getting out and talking to his neighbors. And so again, just to reiterate one more time, safety, security of everybody, the kids on their bikes, the elderly people walking around is the reason the Scarlet Road needs to be taken out of the plans. We're all in favor of new neighbors, new housing, and expanding Breslau, but let's not do it at the risk of safety and security of the current residents of Elroy Acres. Thank you for your time, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? No questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Commissioners, I just.
Thank you.
Sorry, oh,
Staff.
hang on, don't go away.
And not for the delegate, but
for
for
staff.
staff. Yeah.
Okay, the question's for staff, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add, there's one other, a written delegation from McLaughlin of Thomasfield Homes, and that's in your package. So go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Through you to staff. I just wanted to inquire about the traffic study and when that was done and what I know it was in the package, but maybe just to summarize what the results of that study was.
I don't have the study with me, but briefly, it's not anticipated much traffic would go through Scarlet Road, very minimal. But that doesn't, so not much traffic, but that doesn't mean that it should not be located there. So we're not anticipating high volumes of number, but it's there for connectivity purposes. And the numbers are run through through the anticipated population. So they run based off of the anticipated routes and anticipated population.
And just when was that study completed?
I believe actually we had the last update this year. So we continue, I believe the initial study was probably submitted as part of the original submission in 2020. But staff have the opportunity to request additional information. And so there's amendments to it. And the last amendment that was made to it was done in 2023. So if there was any questions or any, if there were any questions about validity or any numbers that were in there, staff would have been able to ask that or update that information up to the last submission, which was in October 2023.
Okay, thank you.
So I just wonder if, for everybody's benefit, if we could just share the draft plan, just to have a look at the road configuration and the lot layout. I think that'll help sort of frame some of the discussion, if that's possible.
Sorry, to the people in the audience, this is council's time to discuss and debate, just, you know.
And I just think looking at the lot configuration, it's difficult not to, I don't have a pointer, gone are the pointer days, I guess, but I think it's important for everybody to understand. So Meadow Street as it exists today will no longer exist after this draft plan it comes to fruition. So I think that's an important piece, that Meadow Street, as you can see there, will ultimately terminate in the plan of subdivision. And then the Ottawa Street, which ultimately in the fullness of time, as planners love to say, will have a water crossing and will facilitate a connection from Kitchener into Breslau. So again, big picture planning, looking long-term here. That is really the intent of Ottawa Street, is to be a collector type road. So when we look at what Scarlet Road is, it really is a mid-block in between existing Elroy and what I believe it to be Dover Court in there. It really isn't an incredibly efficient way for motorists internal to subdivision to find a shortcut. I think that's important to identify. Burkholder certainly will have traffic calming measures installed as part of the draft plan condition. And you can see that that will promote, people are going to want to move to Ottawa Street or Fountain Street. There certainly will be traffic. We don't want to, there's no doubt there will be increased traffic, but I don't think what we're going to see is cut through traffic like we would envision in, say, some of the other subdivisions. That's not what we would see here. And so that really is, it just wanted to put that picture on the screen. I think that picture helps frame some of the what is happening. Sheridan will ultimately connect through as well. But Meadow Street, Ottawa Street, Fountain Street are likely going to be the corridors used to move traffic, significant traffic. I think we're still going to have a very quaint and important community here. And obviously, I think the other piece that's important to understand is that the subdivision, as things develop, servicing will ultimately come to Breslau. We know that's been a contentious issue over time with the existing areas, but appreciate in the fullness of time, again, Elroy Acres with wastewater and water servicing. All of a sudden, those large lots have the potential, not saying that anybody, but it has the potential to sever, to create additional density in those subdivisions over, again, the fullness of time. We're talking long-term planning, but I think that's just where, when we're looking at plans of subdivision in the context of meeting up against communities, one of the problems Breslau has had is continuity. And we see that with Hopewell Crossing in the Thomasfield subdivision with what we're calling the older parts of Breslau. So I think that's part of the intent here. Agreed that it is not the be all to end all, but that is the intent of that Scarlet Road connection, is to create continuity between the various subdivisions, both old and new, in Breslau. And that's really the context that I just wanted to frame for everybody's benefit.
Councillor Bryant.
Thank you. Could we look at Scarlet Road being a walkway and use it for emergency vehicles in the future? I know the development I live in, we have a walkway with a pole in the middle that stops vehicles from using it, but it allows for fire trucks, emergency vehicles to come through in the event that they need to get into my development. We only have one entrance in, and it's not a huge development. But I'm thinking that potentially we could do something like that, make it a walkway. The residents could use it, but you wouldn't be stopping traffic in the event that you need the emergency vehicles to get through. And it would just stop people from cutting through and basically destroying the lifestyle, I guess, of people that have been there for 40 and 50 years. I hate to see older subdivisions ruined, I guess, is my thought process. It's become a lifestyle for these people. And I think because we're building new, we shouldn't be just jumping in and taking away what they've become accustomed to. I just don't like seeing that happen, but that's my thoughts. I would like to see it stay as a walkway versus a vehicular road.
Councillor Schwint.
So I'm trying to understand this a bit better. You mentioned, Mr. Pay, traffic calming measures on Burkholder. Could you compare what will be there versus what will be on Kennedy? Because I guess intuitively I'm thinking the residents' issue is you use Scarlet Road to cut through because either Kennedy's faster or Burkholder's faster. So will there be stop signs on either one? What traffic calming measures will there be? Because I'm sort of torn in that we're saying we don't expect to be used very much, but we have to have it. So they're at odds, I think.
Yeah.
Through the councillor through the mayor to Councillor Schwinn. It's anticipated to have traffic calming on Burkholder Street, being a stop sign, a four-way stop sign, I believe on Meadow Street. And then sort of a speed hump is what they call them, further up on Burkholder Street. I believe the street hump is predicted to be between Scarlet Road and Pine Hill Street, where it shows that that sort of dark area, we'll call. So that's and the other street calming measures I believe are recommended would be on the Meadow Street, where it goes further into the near the townhouses on the right-hand side, where the street actually where the sidewalk sort of comes into the street. So it makes the street less wide, we'll say. And those are sort of measures that typically slow down traffic without the start stop as much. But the four-way stop at Meadow Street would is also considered a traffic calming measure, as well as a means of directing traffic.
Councillor Grant.
Thank you. Through you, I just want to say that I agree with Councillor Bryant that this is an older community that many residents, including those in the newer developments of Thomasfield and Empire, are gravitating towards because of it's a slower pace of life. And I agree with the residents that there's concern about the inclusion of Scarlet Road. I do appreciate Mr. Poupé kind of showing us in the fullness of time, but it does make me wonder about what is the hurry in sense to put in Scarlet Road now, when we know in 10 years we could put in a road if it's needed. I look at it from the perspective of it's much easier to put in a road at a later date than it is to remove a road at a later date. So I'm not sure really at this time if it's a road that's necessary, especially when we know this is going to take 15 to 20 years to build.
Anyone else? Other questions, discussions? Councillor Burgess.
For you, Mayor Shawns, just following up on Councillor Grant's comment there, I'd just be curious to ask staff, what is the, how does it affect the developer if we leave the road in the plan, but it's a maybe, I guess you could say, 10 years from now? Is that even something we can do, and how does that play out?
Mr. Dykstra.
Yeah, through Mayor to Councillor Burgess. The right of way should stay, regardless of whatever happens, because it was intended for that. The intent when Elroy Acres was developed at the time was to include a right of way, which is for the movement, or it's for access purposes, right? If it was a decision to move away from as a road, then some alternative measures would have to be taken into account. I'm not sure at this point what that would be, but perhaps, yeah, Deanne.
The township would still be interested in taking that block of land. So would it have to be identified on the draft plan of subdivision as a block that would be dedicated to the township and be a future a walkway block. So a walkway would be on that same block. We would keep the same width. We'd still like to retain that for potential future road connections or servicing connections. So we would just change the way that it was allocated in the draft plan.
Mr. Vink wanted to weigh into you.
Just quickly, I think
Okay.
everybody needs to appreciate too, when you have a draft plan of subdivision, the developer pays for a number of these services. If there's a road that's not constructed now and it's going to be in the future, it's likely going to be on the ratepayers that will then fund that road. So one measure to mitigate some of that cost would be to have the developer construct the road bed, essentially put in granular material, then that could be covered with topsoil and grass on top. So at least you have a structure beneath there. You've got some cost savings, and then you can build whatever you want on top, whether it be a walkway or some pedestrian facility like that. But I think we shouldn't lose track of that piece as well.
Okay, Thank you. Mr. Vink, did you want to weigh in?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to take a little bit of a step back on looking up Scarlet Street here. If you look at its location, it doesn't make a cut through from the new development over to Woolwich or Fountain much faster. So it's not going to, generally at the moment, doesn't look like people would take it. That's what the traffic study is suggesting. The new subdivision is probably not going to see a lot of people taking it as a cut through speeding location. In all honesty, the traffic study actually suggested more the Elroy Acres people are more likely to utilize Scarlet to go up to Fountain or down to New Ottawa Street as an easier access point. But what we're also trying to realize is when they've got two communities, this long stretch of road in the middle where there's no connections potentially from traffic perspective, because we're not trying to integrate all aspects, not just cycling and walking and all aspects. If somebody is trying to go from one side of the subdivision to the other, just within the subdivision to some extent, maybe they're going up to the north end to visit another family member or go over to something, you do want that integration possibility to take place versus having someone drive way up and around to get to something. So I know maybe not a lot of people maybe want to drive to the park or typically would drive to the park, but the opportunity is now lost if they want to come from Elroy Acres to go to the park and drive over to pick up a child or whatever it is. So we're just realizing those types of integrations do exist, right? So we're trying to encourage all types of integration to take place here. And Scarlet Road's not introducing, it's a small stretch. It's not introducing this the way we can see it as a speedway in any form or fashion. And we're not trying to encourage speeding into the Elroy Acres, but it is also a way that we connect both communities and people can go between both. So Elroy Acres may benefit as much just being able to access this new subdivision and use Burkholder to get faster to Ottawa or Menno itself too, as an example. So it's a way to disperse traffic patterns and whether it's vehicles, pedestrians or cyclists, that's why we have grids. That's the nature of the grid pattern, so that people have choice and they have that opportunity to choose opportunities to move around. And if roads are under reconstruction, etc., these stubs often help us, when we connect them. These are another ways that people can move around if there's road reconstructions, etc. There's alternative choice with people having people drive far around. So that's why we like to encourage them. So it's not that we're encouraging speeding. It's not that we're necessarily suggesting there's speeding. There's nothing to suggest there would be speeding, but we're looking at ways to introduce choice into a neighborhood and connect the two. So that's what we're trying to convey as staff, is there's opportunity here to do that without a significant negative impact to either side of the old or new.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions, comments? Councillor Cadeau.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, it doesn't have to do with the traffic, so I kind of wanted to wait until the end. But I was hoping that staff could walk me through the parkland agreement just a little bit on page 21. We've heard from some delegates that 25% of this space is going to be designated as green space. A lot of that is in the form of wetlands, though, not so much in usable park space. So I'm looking at the figures here. The Planning Act would have a requirement of 2.55 hectares of park space, but we're only keeping approximately 1.17 hectares, and that's what we see here as the park that's described there, is my understanding. That leaves 1.38 hectares of land that should be designated for park space, but isn't. It's being developed and sold off. So I'm concerned that with the level of density that we're putting into this neighborhood, taking away park space is going to take away opportunities for some of the residents to fully engage. So I just wanted to make reference to this and to maybe get some clarification on that from staff, if that is accurate, if my interpretation is accurate. And is this something that we do on a regular basis in Woolwich?
Mr. Dykstra.
Yeah, through Mayor to Councillor Cadeau. Your addition and subtraction is correct. Good. And it's through discussion actually with the applicant and with our recreation staff that we come up and we sort of determine location of a park, the configuration of the park, how much park is necessary, and also to the financial aspect of it as well too, because parks are great, but then you also need to maintain them. And we need also monies for other, not just parkland, but also for other community services. So the idea as well is having less park, we're able to take some of that reduction in park, convert it into monies, and then actually increase the amenities on those parks and increase the actual amenities within the community. And then in addition, for with those additional monies, what you can also do is in another neighborhood, perhaps, which has an area where the township wants to see some additional park, or we're assembling a whole bunch of park to create a larger park, then we have those monies available in order to create those larger, like soccer fields or whatever you need, right? So it's taking a little bit of park land away from here, and then using it for various other purposes. And it should also be noted that within the blocks on the north end, because it's anticipated that those would be created into condominiums, there's amenity area requirements as well. So those amenity areas, typically what happens is those get into sort of like mini vignette parks where there's like a little bit of additional green space that sort of substitutes somewhere between a backyard and a park. And that's sort of that's also too why the park is a little bit further on the south end from the north end. And then there's the connections that we also try to make to the stormwater management ponds. There's opportunities for enjoyment of those lands as well.
Go ahead.
I don't mean to challenge you, but we're not taking away a little bit of parkland. We're taking away over half of it for this individual community. And I guess that's the struggle that I'm finding when I'm reviewing this. So not that there's a question associated with that, but just general feelings towards the amount of park space we're designating this. I still have struggles with.
Chair.
Ms. MacArthur, did you want to jump in, or Ms. Freeze?
Sorry, yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. Really, when we're taking any kind of parkland dedication, we're trying to make the most effective use of that allocation. So either through land, through amenities, and through retaining that money so that we can create those large facilities. So it's not always appropriate in this type of a community to make a soccer field, but it might be appropriate for the larger, broader Breslau community that we might want some more lands to put in a soccer field. Also, there's the amenity side of it. So land is good, but if we don't have money to put a playground or benches or something to actually make that park space usable, then it doesn't have as much benefit either. So we really look at like what are our options here and what we can do to really make the best use of that parkland allocation, because it's not huge, but we want to make sure that we make the best decisions for that community.
Ms. MacArthur?
Through you, Madam Chair, to council. So a couple of other points just want to add to what planning staff have suggested tonight. And have we done it previously? Yes, we have done it in Elmira and Southwood. It was our first opportunity to explore something like that. And in that case, similar to what we're going to experience in Breslau, Lions Park is very close to Southwood. So we thought, okay, we could take a little bit smaller piece of parkland, take some of that money, and we were able to add some other amenities in Lion Park where we have larger amenities such ball field and soccer pitches and things like that. So that's where we looked in this case as well at the subdivision holistically. So yes, the parkland we feel is a little bit smaller, but there is significant amount of trails that people can get in, and some of it will be paved so that people can go and walk, stroll. We felt there was opportunities there for additional leisure activity. We looked at it holistically in Breslau for all of the other parks that this is a neighborhood, so most people we suggest would walk. And that there are significant parks in Breslau that would be serviced for more of a community park where people would drive, and larger spaces and amenities. So we felt you know, when we looked holistically in that in Breslau, we felt that the parks are going to be developed enough and sufficient to, you know, provide capacity for that whole end of the neighborhood. Did you want to add to that, Thomas? No. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just if I can add a couple of, I can add a couple of questions because I'm in the chair. I get to do what I want, right? I'm a bit of the mindset of Councillor Cadeau. I'm always concerned, especially when we're increasing density, that we have enough green space. And I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it. The wetland that's there is already existing, and there's an open space to the east. Can we shift that over and make that green parkland, the more usable parkland, bigger?
To Madam Mayor, it would that that area is identified. It's basically semi-unusable area. We can't shift a wetland over, so it's just sort of remaining lands that they're sort of they're in an odd area. They're in sort of no man's land. But through the fullness of time, though, those lands will likely be vegetated and will, you know, it'll sort of the vegetation from the wetland will, you know, incrementally fill in that area. And so that will just make that the anticipated trail that goes around the wetland, instead of it interfacing so much with Fountain Street. It'll be more protected, and it'll be more of an enjoyable experience being in a more vegetated area. To get access to those lands or to program them in any way wasn't seen as beneficial.
So the green line where it says wetland buffer,
Right.
Wetland limit. And then there's a yellow line that says drip line and a red one that says drip line. They're both drip lines. Will that space between the green line that is the wetland limit and the darker green, the rest of that, will that be usable space for the community then? Is that all going to be where the trail is and have that as usable?
Well, yes, there's anticipated to be a trail, and that'll come through when we do detailed design to locate exactly where it will go. It'll be somewhere in that that buffer area. It will be usable as a trail, but it's more so for passive recreation versus active recreation, where you would have you know, kids playing football or whatever. That's what the park is predominantly for. But it's true in the sense that the wetland is sort of an extension of that of the recreational needs. So you have the park that's more of the active part of it, whereas the trail system is considered sort of a passive recreational need, and it is a very large portion of this development, and is a great asset to the development.
Okay. Jeremy's on the. Mr. Vink.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to kind of tie back into this conversation here. So yeah, we can't move that piece that's left beside Fountain Street. Unfortunately, it's just a remnant parcel that they're conveying to us. It doesn't count as the parkland, although it will become vacant space usable for trail or something. There is an entire trail going around the wetland, so that there will be a walking trail, and then it has walkways connecting to the side streets in and around it. When the design of the park was being contemplated here, we did make sure that we designed a neighborhood park that had a large enough playground and a large green space accommodated on it, so that kids could still kick around a ball and have lots of space without, you know, getting in the way of the playground. So the park is placed centrally because then, according to our official plan, we're meeting that distance to the neighboring, most of the housing in the area, which is the intent of the OP, to have a neighborhood park service the area and the surrounding area. So not just Elroy Acres, but not just this development, but also Elroy Acres could walk to it. And that's the nature of it. It's a neighborhood park. And we were at one point contemplating a park on the north end, but the challenge was it was going to be a smaller park, but in the end, the function was going to be the same, and you would just end up with the same kind of thing as a playground. So we weren't sure it was actually going to be beneficial to have two parks that close to each other. And ultimately, they needed more stormwater space. So we were struggling with the North Park as being a usable, functional park in any form or fashion. So losing it was not as big as a concern because we're trying to integrate things to a central park. With that central setting, then we hope the community then congregates around it as one. So it's one spot where they all can communicate together and be together and share in different elements. Just tied into that, we will be seeing a rec master plan in the next few months too, but that's the nature of the neighborhood park, to integrate that scenario and service that area without causing undue stress. As a result, we did work with the developer and said, look, we're not getting those remnant lands. We're not asking for them. We want some funding. And they worked with us on a funding model that is giving us more than the Planning Act requires, which is helping us in this case, A, get the park in the first phase, B, that we will see playground equipment developed on there because we'll have the funds to do it from the developer. So we're going to see this park being built right from the start to get going, and we'll get additional funds. And if the need be, we can put those additional funds somewhere else as necessary, but we're going to put it immediately to get this park up and going, which in the past is not what we've seen in subdivisions, obviously, because we haven't had the funding to put the playground in for years sometimes. So in this case, we're going to try to get this park up and going right from the start, and we're getting more funds right from the start than we ever would have anticipated through the Planning Act.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, we do have a rather long recommendation here in terms of the Scarlet Road issue, because that was something that we talked about. We can add that as a number 8 if someone would like to move the recommendation.
I
Councillor
will move
Bryant.
the recommendation with the addendum for Scarlet Road, the fact that it be a walkthrough versus a vehicular road.
I would suggest we take Mr. Poupet's advice and ask for the roadbed underneath it.
Yeah, yeah, we can
In
put the
case
roadbed
for
underneath, but
future, but
keep it as
that
a-
it be a walk
as a
through.
walkable, how do we word that? As a walkway versus a vehicular roadway? I'm not sure. what the proper
Jeff will
word-
make it nice.
Yeah. Basically something to keep the cars out.
Seconded by Councillor Grant. Is there any discussion on the motion? Are you good? Yeah. Are
Sorry,
you good?
I'm good.
Okay. I'll call the question then. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who came and delegated and listened, and look forward to the future in Breslau. And you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. Okay, annual grant applications. Deputy Clerk Smith.
Stephen, can you stop sharing?
Yeah, I can't see anybody.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz, and good evening to you and the rest of council. This evening, you have your 2024 grant applications in front of you. Before we hear from the applicants, I wanted to provide you with a very brief overview of the grants process, as it can be a little confusing at times. So last year, council passed their first grants budget. That budget included applicants who received pre-approval for the term of council. Because of that, those organizations do not need to apply again until the next term. Each fall, we open up the application process again to new applicants. This year, we have received 3 applications, and the report before you tonight gives an overview of each application. And then every December, we give all new applicants the opportunity to present their applications to council. And then in the new year, council will make a decision on the applications through the budget process. So no decisions on the applications will be made tonight. I am pleased to tell you tonight that we do have the opportunity to hear from all three applicants. They have all registered and I hope they're all here. Before we get to that, if there are any questions about the report or clear as mud, I mean crystal clear, process or policy, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions on the crystal clear policy? I guess it is crystal clear. Thank you. Then we'll call on the delegations. Courtney Waterfall of Shelter Movers, Southwestern, Ontario. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me tonight to speak about the incredible work that Shelter Movers Southwestern Ontario is doing. My name is Courtney Waterfall and I am the chapter director of Shelter Movers Southwestern Ontario, formerly Shelter Movers Waterloo Region, but over the summer we rebranded to Southwestern Ontario to better represent the work that we're already doing in our community. We are a national volunteer-powered charitable organization that provides moving and storage services to individuals and families experiencing abuse, primarily women and their children. So I will use the term she, her, and women throughout my presentation, but we do support anyone of any gender fleeing abuse. In collaboration with local businesses and community agencies such as Woolwich Community Services, we support families as they transition to a life free of violence. We are the only organization of our kind across the country. The most dangerous place for women and girls in Canada is in their home. In 2019, there were more than 107,800 cases of gender-based violence reported across the country. Annually, there are over 68,000 admissions to shelters for survivors of abuse. And in 2022, 182 women and girls were killed by a family member or intimate partner across our country. Locally, 5 out of 6 homicides in our region were the result of family or intimate partner violence, with over 6,190 calls related to intimate partner violence to our police. According to a 2019 report from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, our region has one of the highest rates of sexual assault and intimate partner violence reported to police across the country. This region was identified as the least safe place for women to live in Canada. It was in part because of this that a Shelter Movers chapter was established in this region. We have 9 chapters across the country, from Vancouver all the way to Nova Scotia. As an organization, we have completed over 6,500 moves since 2016. Our chapter, established in December of 2020, we've now, as of today, completed 430 moves. This is significant because as of October 2022, we had completed our 200th move. So almost 2 years in operation and 200 moves. The end of this October, we completed our 400th move. So we doubled our numbers in just a year. Within these 430 moves, we have moved more than 400 children and over 110 pets to safety. So women do make up 99% of our clients. Most of them have children. Most of them are between the ages of 18 and 55. So we help remove barriers to new beginnings. Women tend to return to their abuser an average of 7 times before they leave for good. And that's if they're fortunate enough to not be the victim of femicide or increased violence, which chances of this increase drastically once a woman has made the decision to leave and in the 6 months following the end of the relationship. We recently had a client that we moved over the summer. Her and her young child, we moved them into a shelter. A couple of months later, we moved them into their new permanent home. Mom returned to the abusive home just to grab something for her young child and was beaten so badly she ended up in the hospital. Leaving the abuser is fraught with many risks and obstacles. At Shelter Movers, we work to remove as many barriers as possible to ensure our clients are able to start fresh. We remove emotional barriers by ensuring our clients are able to take their precious items and keepsakes. We remove financial barriers by removing the costs associated with moving, storing, and replacing belongings. We also remove safety risks by ensuring police or security are present on moves where an abuser could be present. We arrange for pet fostering for as long as the client needs, and we arrange for translation services should there be a language barrier. We also know that in rural communities, there are additional barriers to leaving abusive relationships, including lack of transportation and limited access to support services. We store clients' belongings as long as they need it, and we will move them as many times as needed. So whether they're moving into a shelter, into transitional housing, or into their new permanent home. Should a client return to their abuser, we will absolutely move them again with no judgment. So as I mentioned, we've now completed 430 moves in and around this region. In our first full year, we did 102. Last year, we completed 158. And this year, we are on track to complete over 200 moves, with demand increasing. So far this month, we have completed 12 moves, meeting our target for the month, and it is only December 12th. We have 8 more moves in the works for this month. We are moving an average of 17 to 20 families per month locally, and 145 families per month across the country. This means that in our region, we are moving more than 10% of our national total. And when we consider our size in comparison with chapters such as the GTA, Calgary, Montreal, Vancouver, and Ottawa, this is significant. And we know that we're only scratching the surface. Another key point that I want to mention is nationally, about 5 to 10% of our moves are considered medium or high risk. Those are moves that require police or security escort. In our chapter, we are currently at about 37% police or security escorted moves. And this is down from about 40 to 45% this summer. We work closely with organizations such as Women's Crisis Services and the YWCA and Woolwich Community Services, but we still have work to do to ensure we are able to support all survivors across the region, particularly in the townships. We have 3 main types of moves, including our urgent exit move, where our trained volunteers, in addition to police or security personnel, transport clients and their children from the abusive household to a confidential safe location, most often a shelter that has agreed to take them. We store their furniture and belongings securely at no cost. Our escorted moves are again done with our team of trained volunteers alongside police or security, escorting the client who has already left the abusive home back to the home to retrieve their belongings. Again, we store these belongings as long as needed at no cost. Our resettlement move is when our team of volunteers transport the client, children, pets, and belongings to their new safe home from that transitional housing or shelter. All of our moves are done with the use of rental vehicles to ensure safety for both our clients and volunteers. Our team is trained in trauma-informed care and using a client-centered approach, and our lead movers and move coordinators are additionally trained in crisis prevention intervention. We are primarily volunteer-run, with a few key paid roles to ensure stability and expertise for our team, our clients, and our community partners. We currently have about 150 volunteers and 5 paid staff members in the region. We need to grow this team in both numbers and geographical location in order to meet the growing need for our services. In 2023, we completed 7 moves in Woolwich. In order to grow our capacity in Woolwich, we're asking for $5,000 to offset additional costs, such as fuel, vehicle rentals, and storage. One of our clients' children recently said, "Prove there's good people in this world. You can help us continue to be those good people." Thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Our next delegates are Ron Zinger and Frank Ryder from the Maryhill Historical Society, and they're joining us online. Welcome.
You. Good evening, Your Worship, esteemed councillors and respected staff. On behalf of the Maryhill Historical Society, we're grateful for this opportunity, particularly with such a heavy agenda you have. My goodness. My name is Frank Ryder. I'm the president of the Maryhill Historical Society, and I'm presenting along here with my colleague, Ron Zinger, who is our treasurer. The Maryhill Historical Society is a not-for-profit corporation. It's operated solely by a volunteer board of 10 to 12 people who are directors. We have no employees. When it was established in 1977, it was relatively low-key, but now, some 46 years later, it seems to be playing more of a significant role in that village of Maryhill. We have a membership of 330 families. 80% of those are in Ontario, and of those, we believe the majority are residents of Woolwich Township. Some of you may be aware that the Historical Society owns a resource centre known as the Halter House, and it's situated right adjacent to the old school in Maryhill. Now, total transparency, 50% of that building contains an apartment. However, the rental income from that apartment is used to support our annual operating expenses. We're fortunate that every year we get about 200 guests or more attending the Halter House, either at our Sunday open houses over the summer or at special events that we host. And one of them is significantly is our annual Canada Day event in Maryhill. And I believe that we're the only organization to host a Canada Day event in that village. However, many of our visitors require assistance with a walker, wheelchair, or canes for mobility. Of course, in relation to the parking across the street or at the school next door, our guests have to cross our driveway. And sadly, it's really relatively uneven, and it's in a condition that's needed for repair. We've noticed it makes it difficult for some of these guests to travel safely across that. And of course, the situation was made worse when Waterloo Region replaced the sidewalk in front of the Halder House and across the driveway. And it really put a ridge on the opposite end of the sidewalk. Of course, then that the driveway we use for tables and chairs, like for the events like Canada Day and so on. But we desire, if we possible, to improve that driveway primarily for safety and easier accessibility, but also to divert the rainwater away from the stone rubble foundation of the Halder House. It was built around 1880. We've given it some thought, and we also desire to increase the size to provide more of an outdoor space to accommodate our guests for those special events. Unfortunately, we do not have the financial resources for such a project. As an example, our net income for our 2023 fiscal year was $3, truly a not-for-profit organization. Provided some information in your meeting package. There's a drawing there. The existing gravel driveway is approximately 12 feet by 33 feet for a total of 396 square feet. We were looking at a plan to widen the driveway to approximately 20 feet, and that would take it right up to the Halder House building where it could be built up to create a diversion for water, but then extended back an additional 17 feet for a total of 50 feet from the sidewalk. That would give that area 1,000 square feet. But then in addition, we would like to add about a 10 by 20 pad along the back of the Halder House in order to improve the accessibility at the rear entrance, because the washroom in the Halter House is at the back of the building. So if we were entertaining out back, if we had a pad there, we would be able to build a ramp to assist with that. And there's also some photos that we've included in the meeting package to assist with your observations and assessment. So now we've obtained 3 quotations for this project, and that's ranging from 9,500 to 15,000. Now that's inclusive of HST. The amount that was requested is 7,350. That's about 75% of the lowest the grant, or the lowest quotation. So the remainder of it would be, we'd have to generate that through fundraising. Ron, I thought maybe I could get you to go out and sell chocolate bars. So again, financial assistance for this project would be so appreciated. But alternatively, like, our objective here is to prove the safety for the accessibility of the Halder House. If the township has the resources and the equipment to complete this project for us, we would truly be grateful. So thank you for your consideration and for permitting us to present to council this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I'm not seeing any questions. Thank you for the presentation, and we'll look for a resolution to take it to the budget committee along with the other requests.
Madam, I do have a question. It was more of a clarification.
Okay.
Does anyone know what a service agreement is with the township? That was mentioned both years, last year and this year again. Would our project be better served by a service agreement with the township?
So from the grant application, you said?
Yeah, the service agreement is noted in the grant application, so I think they're just looking for clarification on what that is. Yeah.
Anybody?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Shantz, through you to the delegate. So I'm trying to think right now. So that is outlined in our policy, and there would be certain organizations that would have services that the township could partner with in a service agreement. I'll be honest, I'm coming up blank on what maybe some of those projects might be, or
Is that something that you can get back to the delegates?
yeah,
with?
absolutely. I can do that, no problem. I'll get back to you by the end of next week.
Okay. Thanks so much, Alex.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll move on to our final delegate this evening, Karen Gallant. Junior Achievement, Southwestern Ontario. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I feel like I'm standing between you and dinner though, so I'll be fast. Good evening, Mayor, members of council and staff. My name is Karen Gallant. I'm the president and CEO of Junior Achievement of Southwestern Ontario, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to join you tonight to provide further information about our funding application. Junior Achievement is a global organization. We operate in 120 countries around the world. And here in Canada, we operate in every province. And within Ontario, we have 4 local JA operations. In Waterloo Region, we have been serving students for more than 50 years. In 2021, we amalgamated JA Waterloo Region with JA London and the JA operation in Chatham, Windsor, and Sarnia to become a larger organization with more efficiencies and the ability to serve more students. Last school year, we reached more than 21,000 students in 279 schools across Southwestern Ontario, thanks to the involvement of 549 volunteers. JA programs are offered free of charge to schools to students in grades 4 to 12. Most programs are facilitated in classrooms, although we also run an extracurricular high school program called Company Program, which is the program that most people are familiar with. They're the ones where you see students in the malls selling their products. Your package does contain some more information about our programs as well. Each year, we promote programs to all the schools in the region, and teachers can register at any time during the year. Because we offer these programs in classrooms, all students, regardless of ability, ethnicity, social or economic status, benefit from the programs. Volunteers go into classrooms and teach students a set curriculum that aligns with the outcomes of the Ontario Provincial Education Curriculum. We recruit volunteers from corporations as well as from the general community. They bring real-world experience into the classroom and make the learning come to life for students. It's an invaluable addition to what we teach. Young people have experienced a lot of negative outcomes over the past several years. So social isolation, learning loss, they've witnessed huge social injustices and violent wars, and they also are exposed to environmental and economic crises. A September 2023 Stats Canada report shows the following. Young people are less satisfied and less hopeful about the future. In fact, hopefulness decreased in young people by 15 percentage points between 2015 and 2021-22. They face disproportionately high levels of poverty. They're tracking poorly on the quality of life indicators, such as their sense of belonging in local communities, and they have feelings of loneliness. These challenges don't disappear with age. Rather, they are ongoing and may permanently hinder their standard of living in adulthood. JA programs have been proven to transform a young person's life, helping them dream big about their future and giving them skills, knowledge, and the confidence to pursue their goals successfully, regardless of what those goals will be. According to a Boston Consulting Group study, 65% of students who participated in a JA program said that the program had a significant impact on their decisions to stay in high school and enroll in post-secondary education. More than 75% of participants cite JA as having a significant impact on the development of their financial literacy skills. More than 80% cite JA as having a significant impact on the development of their leadership and problem-solving skills. Compared to their peers who have not participated in a JA program, those who have participated are 25% less likely to be unemployed, they're 3 times less likely to spend more than they earn, and they're 50% more likely to open their own business. For every dollar invested in JA, there's a $45 return to society. We do not receive any consistent annual funding from United Way or the provincial government. Each year, we must raise all the funds we need to operate through the support of corporations, individuals, foundations, local governments, and fundraising events. Our costs of $1,000 to run up one program in a classroom include all of the print and digital materials that are required, our volunteer recruitment, screening, and training, the program coordination, as well as the evaluation of those programs. Our request for funding from Woolwich Township would support the delivery of 10 of our in-class programs for which we already have requests. We have a request from Breslau Public School for the More Than Money program. Park Manor Public School has requested $4 with cents programs, as well as 4 Economics for Success programs. And St. Teresa of Avila has requested $1 with cents program. You can see the demand is there for JA programs in the township. The funding from Woolwich Township would make a significant difference in our ability to deliver these programs to youth in the township and empower them for future success. Thank you for considering our application, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Cadeau.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you to the delegate. Just a really simple question. You're wanting to proceed with 10 programs at about $1,000 each to deliver. Now, is that scalable up or down? Like if we went forward with $8,000, you would run 8 programs in Woolwich, and if we came up with 12,000, you could run 12 programs. That's the idea?
Through the mayor to the councillor, yes.
Okay, so this is directly for those programs in Woolwich for those 3 schools that you mentioned?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
There is a resolution in front of you to receive the report and to direct staff to add the grant applications to review during the operating budget, moved by Councillor Cadeau, seconded by Councillor Grant. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We'll be considering our budget later in January. There's no unfinished business. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone want to speak to either of them? Would someone like to move them? Councillor Schwint, Councillor Grant, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. 12. Okay. Staff reports, budget schedule, Clerk Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz. Further to the discussion we started last meeting, just wanted to present council with a draft 2024 budget schedule. We had flipped some of the dates, and we had switched to a full day sessions on the 23rd and the 25th. Right now, we are suggesting, I showed you a draft that I got up done pretty quickly last meeting. We do think we might need a special planning meeting on January 16th. So better to schedule that in and then cancel it if it's not needed. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So a meeting on the 9th and a potential meeting on the 16th? Correct. Okay. And full days on the 23rd and 25th. And then evenings, 1 or 2, depending what we need.
Yes, evenings scheduled for the 30th and the 1st. Of course, if you don't need them, we can cancel.
Okay, questions? Someone want to move the recommendation? Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Bryant. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Breslau Memorial Park splash pad request proposal. Mr. Vanderhoff.
Good evening, Council. Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Council. I guess I'll start off. I have David Giacomatzi with me as well too on the call, so he is available for any questions the council may have, and he is from the Breslau Community Fundraising Committee. So tonight the report is the Breslau Splash Pad for Breslau Memorial Park. Recommendations are an award of the request for proposal to Open Space Solutions Limited as a successful proponent for the installation of a splash pad at 100 Andover Drive, otherwise Breslau Memorial Park or the Breslau Community Center, at a contract price of $325,631.30 after the HST rebate. And then a second recommendation to authorize 2024 pre-budget approval in the amount of $25,000 for the installation of in-ground waste receptacles at the Breslau Memorial Center. So a bit of a history for some of council here. This project has come before council and was supported in 2013, 2016, and then most recently in 2022. It has the group, or a different form of this group, has been fundraising for this project for over 10 years. However, in the last 2 years, there's been a bit of a resurgence. Some new members join on, and I would thank David for that as well too, and being a huge help to the group there in raising capital dollars. So it's a small group, 5 or 6 of them, I believe. They have raised all the capital funds, which was the request of previous councils, that this group raise capital funds and the township would incur operating expenses moving forward. Another request of previous councils, which is a standard practice for us now, is to enter into project management agreements with all of our community fundraising groups. So the township's responsible for procurement as well as project management. The group's responsible for capital funding, that sort of thing there. We have operating dollars in the 2024 budget for this project, which was identified in the report primarily just for water. As a part of this process, we did go through site planning approval. So storm capacity has been looked at, mechanical, electrical drawings, site planning, all that is all done. We incorporated that directly into the request for proposals. So proponents were able to bid really primarily mostly on the design, but location and all that sort of stuff, major landscaping features was all predetermined. As a part of site planning approval, one of the requests from our planning department was to relocate the waste receptacles that are at the building there, and we think that's a great idea. It's a bit of an eyesore. So putting in the in-ground waste receptacles that we've been doing at some of our other facilities, thought that was a welcome addition, but not something that we feel that the committee should be paying for. Rather, those dollars should be going towards the splash pad. So we released the RFP. We received a total of 3 bid submissions. An evaluation was had, and our recommendation is open space. We've worked with them lots before over the last 10 years, carrying out a playground installation with them currently in South Parkwood. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions council may have. And like I said, Mr. Giacomatzi's on the line as well too, that I'm sure he'd welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bryant.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to see this moving forward, as this started during my last term of council. So it's been a long time to get this one going. But I think it's a great project, and I'm sure Breslau is going to be very happy to see this one coming. So I would like to move that recommendation, please.
Of course, seconded by Councillor Grant. Is there any further discussion? I'm glad to see it going ahead too. It has been a long time since your term on council and all through my tenure so far. So all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, other business, mayor's report on regional matters. Been spending a lot of time on budget at the region, and tomorrow is our final go at it. Most of our sessions to date have been sort of adding things in, and tomorrow will be an interesting day as we look at where we've landed and where we go from here. So it's going to be a long day. That's basically what's going on at the region right now. Are there any council reports? No. Outstanding activity list? Nothing. There is no notice of motion. We have a number of bylaws. We're looking for a motion that the following bylaw in the hands of the clerk be read a third time. Third and final reading. Did we do first and second? This is a different bylaw. Okay. Ms.
Hi.
Freeze.
Sorry, we did notice after the OPA was already discussed for the plan of subdivision that there is a small refinement needed to add the staging and population numbers to match the report in the OPA. So I just wanted to get council's endorsement for that quick.
Do we need that as a motion or what do we do with that?
Or just to add to the other motion. I don't know if it's possible, Jeff.
So the one in front of you right now is Breslau Drain 1. Mayor Shantz, to your original question, we had we read drainage bylaws the first and second time. They go through the quarter revision process and then we go through that.
Third one, yeah.
The next piece in front of you will be all the bylaws. If council's supportive of the change that Ms. Freeze recommended, we can include that in the resolution and we can probably do that. If that's okay with Ms. Freeze and council.
So that just comes in the form of the bylaw as we pass it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. First motion, that the following bylaw in the hands of the clerk be read a third time and finally passed, and that it be numbered as bylaw number 77-2023 and signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the corporate seal, and that is the Breslau 1 drain. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Grant, Councillor Burgess, all those in favor, that's carried. And we need first, second, and third readings, that the following bylaws in the hands of the clerk be read a first, second, third time and finally passed, and that they be numbered as bylaw number 78-2023 to 88-2023, and that they be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with corporate seal. And I will note the amendment that Ms. Freeze talked about, and I am not going to read all 10 of them. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Bryant, Councillor Grant, all those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. So we do need to go back into closed, so we don't adjourn. Okay. So I need a motion to go back into closed, that the council of the Township of Woolwich convenes in closed session on Tuesday, December 12th, 2023 at 9:15 p.m. in accordance with section 239 of the Municipal Act to finish off our previously noted closed session. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Grant, Councillor Bryant, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who joined in, and I wish you all a happy holiday season, and we will see you again in the new year. And Merry Christmas.